What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Live, episode 45, and welcome to our Pirates of the Caribbean special. I am Alex, and I'm joined by Tyler.
Hello.
And so this is it. This is our Pirates of the Caribbean podcast. It's a normal podcast that we do every other week, that we've done for over 2 years now, just over 2 years actually. And this is, it's a normal number, episode 45, but it's obviously the week that Pirates of the Caribbean comes out. This is it. It comes out on Friday, so we're finally there. So we're kicking it off. We're kicking this week off with tons of Pirates content in general, but we're going to go into this. So what is this? Well, normally, and even right now, this is a conversational show where 2, sometimes 3 people gather around a table. Now, Tyler, we don't have a table. This is just through sound waves,
Yes.
So it's a little different. But when we talk about random topics, random conversation for your amusement. Now, we're going to do the same thing today, only it's going to be Pirates of the Caribbean related specifically, just Pirates of the Caribbean topics. So, if you like that idea, make sure you subscribe to Podcast Now, our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and share this video, comment away. We're going to have a lot of fun on this episode, and we're going to have more Pirates videos as the week goes on, including a couple more special kind of things before the movie comes out. So, topic number 1. Now, we're only doing one topic per day, so this is the topic you're going to get for today. Check back every single day up till Thursday, including Thursday, for the rest. Tyler, we've talked a lot about the Pirates of the Caribbean. We've talked maybe too much about these Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Yeah, we talked only a little bit.
Yeah, like one
Just
or
a
two.
little.
Yeah, maybe one conversation. But we've talked a lot about Pirates 5, and we've talked about Jack Sparrow a lot. And we've talked, kind of like Pirates 4, our kind of displeasure in that, and it wasn't the greatest of movie. We talked about that with SFZ's channel, with our collaboration, but we've never ranked the movies. So starting off topic 1, let's rank the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Now, I want to go from worst to best. So I think it's pretty easy, but do you want to, now this is a conversational podcast, Tyler, so we go off the seat of our pants here. Do you want to start?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to start? Give your 4, 3, 2, 1, or do you want me to go, or do you want to give your 4, then I give my 4, then you give your 3, 3, 2?
We could do it like that.
Okay, so Tyler, what's dead last? What's the worst movie?
Well, you all might be surprised.
Yeah,
It's on Stranger Tides. It's a shock. I know. Everybody just calm down. But On Stranger Tides is easily my least favorite, the worst Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Yeah. So I mean, you've talked a lot. Why? But do you want to give like a summary, like a quick?
It just sucks. I watched it recently, cringed actually for a lot of it. I basically, and I know Alex, you did too. I watched all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, all again. 4 literally it was nothing. Like I felt nothing, and I knew I'm in my head I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to feel something here, but I don't.
Yeah.
And I felt that basically the entire movie. Weak villain. There basically wasn't a supporting cast. That's how terrible it was. The zombies, all that stuff didn't care. Didn't make any sense. Mermaids wasn't interesting at all. The problem is you can't go from at World's End to that high to all of a sudden to that low of kind of like a retake of Curse of the Black Pearl, but like with way less supernatural, and you just throw in mermaids and zombies that you don't explain. So terrible movie, awful movie. And they, like you always say, like they tried to put too much on Jack's shoulders. That's not what he is to these movies.
Right.
He's the highlight of these movies, but he's really not the main character. If you, for like all intents and purposes, like he is not the main character. Because usually the Pirates of the Caribbean, like you look at 1, 2, 3, who did the story really revolve around? Will and Elizabeth, mainly Elizabeth. Like I can argue Elizabeth is the main character.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just bad. It was just terrible.
Yeah,
Awful.
I rewatched. Nick and I watched all 4 of them in one day. We had a massive marathon. I
Ouch.
definitely agree. Like, Johnny Depp did really good as Jack in Pirates 4, I think. Every scene, almost every single scene he's in, which is a problem because I didn't even feel like there was too much of him because I didn't, like, he's good. He tries to carry every scene, and he definitely shouldn't have to do that. I don't think anything he did was wrong with 4, but yeah, you're definitely right. Like, watching it, it was the same kind of thing. Like, I didn't cringe, but I looked at Nick and I was like, there's just so many problems. You said it 2 or 3 videos ago, and it was it kind of went right by me, but then you like nailed it when you said like it's kind of like it should have been, and it feels like a side story, only it's a main point. It's a main point in the franchise. Like, it would have done probably okay.
It does feel like that.
It just feels like a random adventure Jack went on. Like, it starts like that. It starts by him in prison impersonating a judge, and it ends with him, on a beach saying it's a pirate's life for me. Like, that's cool. It's a cool opening. And I forgot that the beginning was the court scene, which is, I think, one of the better scenes, just because it's humor and it's kind of getting you back into that world. I think that's okay. And like the trip where he tells Gibbs that he gave up with the Fountain of Youth thing, that was okay. But the whole movie, with a weak villain, like you said, weak villain, weak supernatural aspects, it kind of screams that it's a side story. That it's just like one of his adventures.
Remember, I said it.
You said it. I think you said it in the importance video.
I don't remember when. It might have been. It might have been both, actually. But I remember with SFZ, I said it does not. It feels like it's a B movie.
Yeah.
Like it literally doesn't have any of the same anything.
Yeah.
As the other movies, the film grain, it's totally different. It's just I don't know. I don't understand.
Yeah, so I definitely agree. That's the fourth. That's the worst movie of the 4. So what's the second worst or third best? Because I think now we can start saying best, third best.
Well, we're not giving out trophies to everybody else. First place is the winner, and that's the end of it. Go home and cry if you feel upset. Not you. The third, I would place Curse of the Black Pearl at number 3 for me.
Yeah.
It's a good movie, but that's all it is. It's good, in my opinion. And obviously, I mean, I know we joked earlier that we didn't do a lot of videos. We are the leading. I know, like, there's other channels out there that talk about Pirates of the Caribbean. Nobody's done what we've done at all.
Yeah.
We are the leading Pirates of the Caribbean channel on YouTube. And so I really do like the franchise. But like Curse of the Black Pearl, like watching it. But the problem is, watching it but remembering how 2 and 3 is, that makes Curse of the Black Pearl not as good for me.
Right.
Because like it only gets better. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
It's a good movie, but yeah, it doesn't. There's a big leap from Curse of the Black Pearl to Dead Man's Chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, but Curse of the Black Pearl is a lot darker, in my opinion, than the others.
Right.
And you could tell Disney totally, like, they took, it wasn't really Disney, but the writing and all that stuff, they took a different direction. Mm-hmm. Because I don't believe Jerry Bruckheimer was as attached to 2 and 3 as he was for the first one.
Right.
Not that I'm blaming him, but I just think you could tell there's a big tonal shift.
Yeah,
like even in Jack. Like, Jack's a much different character in 1 than he is in 2.
He's very different, and I think that's way, like, I said that too when we talked about his importance, but then watching it, I was kind of looking for that, and it's obvious, like, right from the second scene you see him, like, the whole Pelagostus thing is like, this is not even the same Jack. He still has his moments, but it's definitely different, but, yeah, I agree. I mean, what's thrown around with Curse of the Black Pearl a lot is heart. It has a lot of heart, and you can see that. Like, it very much is like a pirates movie. The second one goes into like this supernatural, like, not sci-fi, but it like you said, it's a very different kind of tone, very different kind of movie. Curse of the Black Pearl does have that kind of heart in it, where it's like, yeah, this is a pirates movie. It's this Aztec gold. It's about a pirate mutiny, and like, so it has that kind of feel to it. The Jack's double cross of Barbossa and that whole fight, that's pretty cool. And I remember the first time I saw it, it was very awesome. But you're right, like the thought of 2 and 3, it's like, oh, it's only gonna like Barbossa and his men are cool, and that final fight on the ship is really cool with Norrington and all that. But then, you know, Davy Jones coming in later, a whole new level. So I definitely, that's exactly, our list is the exact same, but but I definitely agree. 4-1. So what is your second best or number 2?
This is a tough one, honestly. Because sometimes it almost depends on the day. Sometimes I see like seriously, like sometimes I see 2 and 3 as one whole movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Because obviously it is.
Yeah.
With just a small gap in between them. But like when I have to separate them, I think it's tough because part of me thinks that Dead Man, geez, I keep saying Dead Man. Dead Man's Chest is better than At World's End, but then other moments, I think that At World's End is better. But at this moment, today, I feel that my number 2 would be Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Because, oh, and like Silver being the second best, I know there's only 4 movies right now, but 5 likely is going to be our favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, just compare, like, or according to what people who've seen it already saying, like, it's definitely the best movie, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But like for Dead Man's Chest, what really stands out, like my girlfriend's never seen Pirates of the Caribbean before, ever. So like when we did the marathon, she watched them all with me. Well, I basically made her watch them. But what's funny was she's like, well, everybody knows Jack Sparrow and Elizabeth. And that was funny that she said that, like before we were watching it. She didn't mention Will. That's interesting though. She's like, yeah, everybody knows Elizabeth and Jack Sparrow. She didn't know about Will though. So that's a telling sign about what I said. But Dead Man's Chest, there's a lot of it takes place in the day a lot more, which is different than Curse of the Black Pearl. So it kind of stands out. And the set pieces are a lot different than Dead Man's Chest. Not better, but they're or any other movie, but they're just different. Like what do they call? I always forget what they're called. Those Indian things.
Palagastus.
Yeah, sure. Like that whole scene, like when they're all like in the ball made of bone and all that.
Oh yeah,
stuff.
that's a really great scene.
Like that's a really great scene. Like that whole span of, I don't know, 5 minutes or whatever. Like they're doing all that stuff. Jack's trying to get away. Like all of that stuff stands out to me a lot. Yeah. But like there's other stuff too. But a lot of it, like honestly, like she likes watching subtitles. I can't stand subtitles. But I let her have the subtitles on because it was hard for her to understand what was being said. Which honestly I do agree with that. Sometimes I don't know what they're saying.
Oh yeah.
Because of the accent and all that stuff. So I actually am glad that they had subtitles on. Because now I understand a little bit more. But that to me is actually something that takes away from the movie. Because you shouldn't have to have subtitles on to understand like almost key stuff.
Yeah.
Well, not key, but almost key
I think
stuff.
that happens a lot in 3. I
all
think
that stuff was confusing. Yeah, and in 3 too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like Beckett and all that stuff, like introducing him, it was good. It was really good actually.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as good as At World's End, just because of what At World's End is. It's like we'll talk about it as number 1, but just a massive, adventure the whole time.
Right.
Like you know what the destination's gonna end up being. That's the best part of it. Where Dead Man's Chest, you have no idea where you're gonna end up at the end.
Right.
Which is awesome. Like my girlfriend had no idea like how it was gonna end up. So like like
that is cool.
The jar of dirt and all, like she's like, wait a minute. She's like, wait, where's the heart? I'm like, you didn't see the part where I can't think of his name.
Norrington.
Norrington, yeah. When he kind of like sees the dirt, the sand, or the dirt, whatever, and like he stuffs his jacket. She must have. I mean, if you blink, you will miss that. That's what's funny.
Yeah.
and she must have blinked because she was watching it. She must have blinked and she missed it. And you just totally don't know, like with that movie, you don't know where you're going to end up at the end, which is really, really
Right.
cool.
I mean that.
But what do you think?
Yeah. That movie. That movie is like much. One was better than I thought it was watching it in this marathon. Two was also better than I thought it was. Like what stands out for two is I told Nick, I looked at him and I was like, you know what's funny about two is Davy Jones, the villain, the main villain, one of our favorite characters, which we'll also talk about in another topic. He doesn't even get introduced till like an hour in. He's not even in it for an hour. It's the beginning scene. It's the Pelagostis. It's Tiadama, and then it's Barbosa, and then it's Davy Jones. So it's like you don't even see him for a while. But you're right. Like the Pelagostis scene is so cool. The Kraken scene, like the warm up scene where they destroy the like the trading ship that Will's on. Like like just to see how cool the Kraken is and how it can just obliterate you. That was awesome. And then obviously like when they have to defend their ship and like it comes in waves 1, 2, 3, the Black Pearl. I mean, like that scene is epic. And the whole movie is, or the battle on the island is basically the biggest set piece I think in that movie. It's also the longest. Like that's like nonstop just sword fighting. Which
seriously.
You get a ton of sword fighting in 3. That's another problem I think with 4 is there was almost no sword fighting except the end, which I hope 5 has a lot of sword fighting. But like 2 had so many great scenes. Davy Jones bringing him in, like he's so like eerie and scary, and exactly what you said. Like I remember when I watched that movie, I watched it when it came out in theaters and at the drive-in too. I saw it twice, and like I didn't like Kelsey, I didn't know how it was going to end. Like I remember on the island, I was like, you know, like I didn't say like the words, but I'm like, you know, this movie's kind of long and it doesn't even look like they're going to get close to killing Davy Jones. And then I was like, I wonder if they're gonna.
Because we didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't look at. Yeah.
Like at the time, because the thing is, at that time, like that around that year, at that time, like movies and like what we know now about like what's coming, they didn't do that back then. So we didn't really even know.
Right.
That if there was gonna be a Pirates 3, we didn't know that they were really filmed back to back, or even what that even meant. Because really nobody did that.
Yeah.
There's only Lord of the Rings did that.
Right.
So we didn't know that stuff.
Yeah, I was like, so they're not. So he's gonna be in 3. Like, where are they going? And then they kill Jack, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, they have a. This is gonna be an epic.
Did you go to the premiere for this Dead Man's Chest?
I don't think so. I didn't see it opening night.
I did, and the audience. I do remember. I was sitting almost in the front row, like 3 up, and they had to open. There were so many people they had to open. They had to cancel a screening of something else that there wasn't a lot of people at. They canceled a screening of something else to open another screen for it. And like a ton, because people were literally standing, but like, or not standing, they were sitting like on the stairs, like it was insane. Because they had 4 screens for that midnight viewing. Yeah. And they were so packed, so they had to open up. So it was crazy, but I remember people loved the movie.
Yeah.
But the ending, all I heard were girls screaming when the Kraken eats Jack. Like, people were like, no!
I mean, that's crazy.
Like, this is how the movie ends? I mean, seriously, think about it. Yeah. Think about, and see, this is how I go back and forth. This is my back and forth. Is 2 better than 3, or is 3 better than 2? It's very confusing, because when you think about it, how many movies, kill off the main character when there's another movie coming after, right? And it's still Pirates of the Caribbean 3.
Right.
How many movies kill off the main character and then bring back the villain from the first movie, back from the dead, who then joins the good guy team.
Right.
To then go save the main character, the dead. Like, that's never been done, ever. Yeah. And just to see that ending with Barbosa coming down the stairs and then he eats the apple, it's like, I mean, those last few minutes was like an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Where you had the crazy fight scene, then Jack's fucked, and then Elizabeth kisses Jack, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. And then you find out that she did it on purpose. Then Jack dies, and then all of a sudden Barbosa's back, and you're like, what the frick just happened?
Yeah. And then
They
And
can't
then
get any better, really.
right, and they show that the Beckett, who's the other villain of the movie, now he has the heart. You
Right.
see the heartbeat in front of
Right.
him, so it's like, oh
Yep.
shoot, Davy Jones is in trouble now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
has
mean,
so
seriously.
many great scenes. It's a very good movie. So all right, so at World's End, it's both of our favorites. Why is it? Or maybe why is it your favorite, or why is it such a good movie in general? Even though it's back and forth for you.
Yeah, it's back and forth, but I mean, they're very close,
Yeah.
tied for first, apparently. But the reason I think it's my favorite is because there is in that movie a lot of mind games to the viewer, like you and I discussed, I think, in either a different video or by ourselves, on how Will seems like he's a bad guy
Right.
almost the whole movie. But then we find out just at the end, when they make the trade Will for Jack, we find out that actually Will was just going along the whole time just to get basically the key and information
Yeah.
on how to defeat Davy Jones. Like, it was like great, like I didn't even see that coming. I was confused when I watched it again, and I've seen that movie probably at least 10 times. At least. You probably saw it like 100 times. But so there's a lot of mind games in at World's End. I wouldn't say though that there's a lot of like not set pieces, but I guess like set piece type events like there was in Dead Man's Chest in At World's End.
Yeah. There's only one.
Which is why there's like I like the ship flipping over the ship scene.
Oh, yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
That's one of them. That was a really cool one. Obviously, meeting the pirate lords, like that was all really cool.
Yeah.
Jack, basically, besides at the end of Dead Man's Chest when he does the right thing.
Yeah.
And then we see my favorite, what I call the true Jack. The serious Jack is true Jack. That's what I always say.
Right.
That was one thing I forgot about in Dead Man's Chest. But in this one, we get to see it again, slightly more than in Dead Man's Chest or any other Pirates movie. When he decides to vote for, well, he set it up. He knew who he was voting for. He knew he was voting for Elizabeth the whole time. That's why he was going. And he knew that they were never, because he was going to vote her for the Pirate King. That's why he purposely rubbed his piece of 8 for Barbossa to be able to cut off, because he knew the trade was going to happen.
Right.
So really, At World's End is a movie that shows the genius of Jack Sparrow. For me at least. He does that. Then when Will dies, there's a lot of emotion in At World's End, which I won't say was lacking in the other movies, but technically it was lacking in the other movies. It wasn't to that scale.
Yeah.
Because At World's End really did feel like a finality, really.
Oh yeah.
Like it felt like a final, not a final adventure, but it felt like a final movie. It definitely felt like a conclusion. I feel like they did a good job concluding that arc, that 3-movie arc, with a massive battle. Whether or not the final battle was 100 versus 100, like it seemed when we were watching it, like what we thought it was going to be, like all the pirate lords versus all the whatever East India Trading Company. Unlike in my Pirates of the Caribbean Sea of Wrath movie, where we wouldn't pull the punch. But so I mean that was all cool. Think about like how many pirate movies there are. Almost none, if not like none.
Yeah.
Like big named ones. And how many do you see get to like that many ships? Like it was just crazy seeing the rain, the whirlpool, like all that stuff was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It really like you're in for a ride when you're watching At World's End. Which is kind of, it's funny because that's almost like the main feeling that I get when I watch 2 and 3. It feels like I am like on a big ride. And the funniest part is, what did these movies come from? This franchise come from? It came from a ride. So it's just ironic to me.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in At World's End that does stand out. To be the music
it's
is
phenomenal.
probably one of the biggest things. The music in that movie is probably one of the best like scores in any movie.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion, which is the only opinion that matters. Um, I mean, that score though, for like it really stands out. Like, and if you aren't familiar with the score somehow, you need to go listen to it.
Yeah.
Because you could listen to that score and you could almost picture. You'll understand the exact emotions that you're supposed to feel when you listen to it. It's and then like feeling and understanding Davy Jones is the other main reason I really like At World's End for my final reason. To me, he's actually he's a very strong villain. Like not just for pirates, like in general, but understanding him, how he was used, and seeing his pain and seeing his emotional scale, where sometimes he's playing like very like dark and he's like really into it and he's like angry and how the theme is like that, and then sometimes he's extremely sad, there's a tear, and it's the same theme but it's so different where you actually feel it, like it actually hurts you, like even like right now, like I feel extremely sad. But it's honestly insane to me that they can do that. And it's not just because they're really like Pirates of the Caribbean, it's because they were very good at telling that story.
Yeah, I mean, 3, I've said it a bunch of times, like 3 is my favorite movie of the series, 3 is my favorite movie of all time, and watching it again, it's like, it does everything, like Tyler said, everything Tyler said is right, like it does everything so well. There's like, if it's not one thing in that movie that's good, it's another. So like, the set pieces, like, maybe it doesn't have as many, I mean, the ending fight scene is one of the biggest set pieces I've ever seen in a movie. I understand, like, it's not going to be this CG, and it is CG, a lot of it is, but it doesn't look like this huge CG mess of maybe a massive fight scene that another movie could have. But, like, on its own, Pirates 3 is I think, top 3 biggest budgeted movies ever. It had an absolute massive budget, and they pushed things back then. And I remember seeing, like Davy Jones looks phenomenal, and there is a noticeable improvement in how he looks from 2 to 3. And, like, you can tell there's so much money that went behind Pirates 3, and they threw everything. The ship turning, I liked, like, learning how TV, how movies, how games are made. Like, I was watching behind the scenes, like, the actors actually did that. They actually went underwater and held their breath all simultaneously. They even said they didn't think they'd be able to shoot that scene because they thought Johnny Depp and Jeffrey Rush would say no to it. And then they said yes, and so they're like, all right, well, we didn't expect that, so let's do it. So they had like a 55-year-old Jeffrey Rush go underwater and hold his breath with everybody else. It's insane. So the set pieces of that movie are great, but if it's not the set pieces, it's something else. It's seeing Jack's humanity, seeing like a great character, seeing Davy Jones, seeing a really strong villain in every single way, seeing that he's used, seeing that he's trying to get out of the mess he's in as well, because like watching it, I was trying to pay attention to his specific part of the movie, and he almost actually gets out of that. You know, he's not really in the best situation, but he kills Mercer when he notices all his guys are dead. He gets the key, and he's gonna go and get the chest, and then Jack walks by him, and then they have their fight. So Davy Jones almost gets out of it, like, okay. He almost gets his heart and escapes. So, like, his arc is great. Seeing the Pirate Lords, that whole scene, really cool. Like, Jack's speech is really awesome. The music, the Sao Fang part in the beginning, the whole Singapore fight scene. Every single thing about that movie, except for the Jack. Not even, I kind of did like more him on his ship because of just how crazy he is and how insane he went in Davy Jones' locker, and to see, like, that kind of sucks that he literally thought.
I actually really like that.
I did like it on second.
But did you say that now you do?
I do like that scene.
Yeah.
I don't like as much when he's on the Flying Dutchman and they come back. When and his part, and like
I didn't like myself.
Like when he licks his brain and that part, it's
it didn't make sense.
Yeah, you didn't have to bring. That only worked because he's insane.
He left the room.
Yeah.
He left the room, so why are they still there?
Right. Yeah, it didn't. That didn't work.
Because that's the problem with movies being basically produced by or funded by Disney.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. Now, like, I'm glad, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have Pirates of the Caribbean. But because of that, those little things like that. That's what happens.
Right.
We get stuff that doesn't make sense, and then whatever.
Yeah, and I mean the ending fight, literally, like I turned to Nick when it was over. I'm like, that was like 20. It's very rare in a movie that that whole sequence happens. Like they didn't stop fighting
Right.
as soon as Elizabeth makes the speech, which is actually like really epic. I never really realized how cool, of how good of a, like she, and you could, I think you could definitely make the argument she's the main character in 3.
She is the main
She's
character,
a pirate
yeah.
king. She basically makes Barbossa fight, and she does the whole thing. Jack sets it all up, but and that's another reason why Jack is Jack and we like him. He doesn't have to actually do it. He sets it up. But from that speech, and then when it started raining and Davy Jones looked up and said Calypso, from that moment and when the two ships come in, the fighting doesn't stop. It's like 20 to 25 minutes of just this epic thunderstorm, rain, fight, continuous. Elizabeth and Will get married. Jack breaks out, and then he gets the heart. He battles Davy Jones, which, like I've said in previous videos, is like what. As soon as they introduce Davy Jones, I'm like, I need to see this guy sword fight. Because I love sword fights, so I needed to see him fight. And he finally did. And actually, Davy Jones fights everybody. He fights Jack, then he fights Elizabeth and destroys her. He fights Will for like a second. So he like goes on this marathon, and then he fights Bootstrap. So he fights like everybody. But like they get married. He escapes. Barbossa's fighting like 15 guys, which you don't really see him fighting. You never see him fighting actually, because at that point you only saw him fight Jack, and won. So it was cool to see him fight like everybody. But so much happens. They kill Davy Jones, and then they have to get off the ship, and then they destroy Beckett's ship, which that was a really cool scene. But like, so much happens in that 20-25 minute span, where it's like that's the length of the deal that Jack made with Beckett and the Brethren Court. Like that whole scene, that's like half an hour. That's the same length of this ending fight. And the fact that they could hold that up for that long and make it epic all the way through, I've never seen. That's why it's my favorite. Like, I've never seen it in another movie. And honestly, that does go to a lot of like the budget thing, because, like I said, that movie was so expensive to make. And yeah, that's the reason why it's my favorite, without a doubt.